Welcome to Bore Me to Bed, the channel where we dive into the world's most uneventful topics, soothingly slow, utterly mundane, and guaranteed to quiet your mind. Whether it's the history of the doorknob or the origin of birdwatching, these stories are designed to help you drift off with ease. In tonight's episode, we're investigating the history of the hat, a slow, uneventful journey through time, exploring how this simple headpiece came to be. So get comfortable, let go of the day, and let me bore you to bed. Hats have played a significant role in human history for thousands of years, serving as more than just functional accessories. They have been symbols of power, status, and identity, worn by rulers, warriors, clergy, and everyday people across cultures and time periods. Whether designed for protection against the elements, religious observance, or pure fashion, hats have continuously evolved alongside society, reflecting broader changes in culture, technology, and social structure. In ancient civilizations, hats were often associated with rank and authority. Egyptian pharaohs adorned themselves with elaborate crowns to signify their divine rule, while Roman officials used distinctive headwear to mark their positions. Throughout the Middle Ages and Renaissance, hats became even more closely tied to social class, with elaborate designs reserved for nobility, while commoners wore simpler, more practical head coverings. By the 18th and 19th centuries, industrial advancements allowed for mass production, making hats more accessible to different social groups. Iconic styles such as the top hat, bowler hat, and fedora emerged, each carrying its own cultural significance. In the modern era, while hats are no longer a daily necessity for most, they remain an important part of fashion and personal expression. Let's explore the rich and varied history of hats, tracing their journey from ancient civilizations to contemporary trends. The earliest evidence of hats dates back to ancient times, long before recorded history. Archaeologists have uncovered depictions of head coverings in prehistoric cave paintings and carvings, suggesting that even early humans understood the importance of protecting their heads from the elements. These primitive hats were likely fashioned from whatever natural materials were readily available, such as animal hides, woven grass, large leaves, or strips of tree bark. They would have been shaped to fit the head and secured with simple cords, sinew, or leather straps, ensuring they stayed in place during daily activities. Their primary function was purely practical, offering much-needed protection against harsh environmental conditions, including the scorching sun, heavy rainfall, and bitter cold. Beyond mere protection, these early head coverings may have also served additional survival functions. Some researchers believe that prehistoric humans used animal skin hats, not just for warmth, but as a form of camouflage while hunting, mimicking the fur or markings of their prey to blend into their surroundings. Others suggest that hats or headdresses adorned with feathers, bones, or shells could have been worn during early spiritual rituals marking tribal leaders, shamans, or warriors. In some cases, the materials used in a hat may have even signified an individual's skill, status, or role within the group. This early evolution of hats demonstrates how even the most basic human necessities can gradually transform into powerful cultural symbols. What began as a simple means of protection eventually became a marker of identity, status, and tradition, laying the foundation for the diverse and symbolic headwear that would emerge in the centuries to come. In ancient Egypt, hats and head coverings played a crucial role in society, serving as indicators of social hierarchy, religious significance, and occupational roles. The pharaohs, considered divine rulers, wore elaborate headdresses to symbolize their power and connection to the gods. One of the most recognizable was the nemes, a striped cloth draped over the head and tied at the back, often seen in depictions of Pharaoh Tutankhamun and other rulers. This distinctive headdress, sometimes paired with a uraeus, a stylized upright cobra, was meant to represent sovereignty and the protection of the gods. Another notable royal headpiece was the shent, a double crown combining the hedjay, the white crown of Upper Egypt, and the deshret, the red crown of Lower Egypt, signifying the unification of the two regions. While the ruling class adorned themselves with extravagant headwear, common Egyptians wore simpler coverings suited to their daily lives. Most everyday citizens, including farmers and labourers, wore lightweight linen head wraps or woven reed hats to shield themselves from the intense desert sun. Wealthier individuals, particularly nobles, often decorated their head coverings with beads, gold accents, or embroidery to display their status. Hats were also used to signify profession and role in society. Soldiers and warriors often wore protective helmets made from leather or bronze, offering both defense in battle and an indicator of rank. Priests, on the other hand, donned special headpieces during religious ceremonies, sometimes incorporating sacred symbols like the sun disk of Ra or the horns of Hathor to show their devotion. Some high-ranking priests were known to shave their heads completely and wear wigs or headdresses as part of their spiritual purity rituals. One of the most famous depictions of Egyptian headwear comes from Cleopatra, who is often portrayed wearing a golden diadem adorned with a rearing cobra, known as a uraeus. This symbol was not only a mark of royalty, but also a representation of the goddess Wadjet, believed to protect the ruler from harm. Cleopatra's iconic headdress, along with other elaborate Egyptian crowns and helmets, demonstrates how deeply headwear was woven into the cultural, religious, and political fabric of ancient Egypt. Moving forward to ancient Greece and Rome, hats continued to play a significant role in distinguishing social status, occupation, and even personal identity. In ancient Greece, the patarsos, a wide-brimmed hat, was commonly worn by travellers, merchants, and shepherds to shield themselves from the sun while they worked outdoors or journeyed across the country. Its practicality made it a popular accessory among the working class, but it also became an important symbol of those engaged in travel and trade. The patarsos was typically made of felt or straw, materials that offered both durability and comfort in the hot Mediterranean climate. The Romans, renowned for their military might and structured society, also used headgear to symbolize both rank and function. One of the most iconic Roman helmets was the galeia, worn by soldiers during battle. The galeia was designed not only to offer protection, but also to serve as a symbol of strength and intimidation. Its design varied depending on the rank of the soldier, with higher-ranking officers often wearing more ornate versions adorned with feathers or crests to distinguish them from their subordinates. The galeia's wide-brimmed shape and prominent face guard made it an essential piece of military equipment, providing both practical defense against blows and psychological advantage on the battlefield. In civilian Roman life, the pileus, a simple felt cap, carried significant cultural and social meaning. This cap was a symbol of liberty, often given to slaves upon their emancipation as a mark of their newfound freedom. The pileus was worn by free men and was typically associated with those who had been granted citizenship or had achieved a certain level of social standing. It was often seen as a symbol of the Roman ethos of freedom and the rights of citizens, and its use was deeply embedded in the culture of the Roman Republic. Roman citizens, depending on their social rank, also wore other types of headgear and garments that reflected their status. For example, the toga, a large draped garment, was an emblem of Roman citizenship and was worn by freeborn men during formal occasions. The toga's colour and style varied depending on the individual's status. High-ranking officials wore the toga praetexta, marked by a purple border, while those running for public office often donned a toga candida, a specially whitened version of the garment. These distinctions reinforced the Roman hierarchy and the importance of outward appearance in expressing one's place in society. Throughout both Greece and Rome, the act of wearing specific types of headgear, from the patarsos to the pileus, not only provided practical benefits like protection from the sun or battle, but also conveyed complex messages about one's social position, occupation, and political status. These accessories were integral to both everyday life and the complex social structures of the time, serving as visual markers of identity, freedom, and authority in the ancient world. During the Middle Ages, hats evolved into even more diverse and elaborate forms, further solidifying their role as symbols of social status, profession, and identity. In Europe, the type of hat one wore became a visible indicator of their place in the rigid class system. The design, materials, and embellishments of headwear were carefully chosen to reflect an individual's rank, occupation, and, at times, even their marital status. For the nobility and royalty, hats became extravagant and ostentatious, often adorned with precious jewels, feathers, intricate embroidery, and luxurious fabrics such as velvet and silk. These elaborate hats were a clear expression of wealth, power, and social distinction, designed to make a striking impression on those around them. One of the most iconic examples of this high-fashion headwear was the hennin, a tall, cone-shaped hat that became particularly popular among women in the 15th century. The hennin, often worn with a flowing veil, became a symbol of noble status and refined taste. Its dramatic height and unusual shape set it apart from the simpler headwear worn by other classes. At the height of its popularity, the hennin was a highly coveted fashion accessory that signified the wearer's connection to the aristocracy. Some versions of the hennin were elaborately decorated, with elaborate lacework, pearls, and even gilded trims, further enhancing the wearer's prestige. The hennin, like many other pieces of medieval fashion, was a visual marker of social rank, with the nobility and upper classes striving to outdo one another in terms of ornate headgear. In contrast, peasants, labourers, and the lower classes wore far simpler and more practical headwear. For them, hats were not about decoration, but about functionality and protection from the elements. The common folk typically wore plain wool or leather caps, hoods, or coifs, which served to keep them warm during harsh winters or protect them from the sun while they worked in the fields. These headpieces were often utilitarian, designed for everyday wear and made from readily available materials. Despite their simplicity, these hats still played an important role in distinguishing the wearer's social class. Unlike the intricate hats of the nobility, these humble caps were understated, reflecting the modest lifestyle and limited resources of the working classes. The influence of the church during the Middle Ages was also pivotal in shaping the development of headwear, particularly for clergy members. Religious leaders wore distinct headpieces that reflected their spiritual authority and hierarchical position within the church. The mitre, a tall ceremonial headdress worn by bishops and other high-ranking clergy, became a powerful symbol of ecclesiastical power. Often ornately decorated with intricate designs and precious stones, the mitre was worn during important religious ceremonies, such as Mass or the ordination of priests. The biretta, another key piece of clergy headgear, was a square-shaped cap typically worn by priests, deacons, and cardinals. The biretta's distinctive 3 or 4 peaks symbolised the wearer's rank within the clergy, and it was often worn in conjunction with other vestments during religious services. In addition to their role as symbols of authority and rank, hats in the Middle Ages also played a role in personal identity. For example, a married woman in medieval Europe might wear a wimple or a veil to signify her marital status, while unmarried women would often leave their heads uncovered. Similarly, certain colours and styles of headwear were reserved for specific occasions, such as weddings or religious festivals, further adding to the symbolism and significance of hats in medieval society. As the Middle Ages progressed, the importance of headwear only increased, with hats becoming integral to personal identity and a powerful tool for social distinction. From the lavish and ornate headpieces of the aristocracy to the practical and modest caps of peasants, hats in medieval Europe were much more than just accessories. They were powerful symbols of social, religious, and cultural identity that helped to define and reinforce the rigid social hierarchy of the time. The church's influence on fashion and the complex relationship between fashion, status, and identity in the medieval period contributed to a rich tradition of headwear that continued to evolve in the centuries to come. The Renaissance period marked a significant turning point in the history of hats, as it witnessed a cultural shift in fashion, making it more accessible to the growing middle class. With the expansion of trade, the rise of cities, and a flourishing economy, a broader segment of the population had the means to indulge in more fashionable attire, including hats. This democratization of fashion was further propelled by the invention of new materials and advanced techniques in hat making, allowing artisans to craft a wider variety of designs that were more intricate, stylish, and tailored to individual tastes. One of the most notable changes in this era was the popularization of the beret, which became a symbol of the Renaissance period, particularly among artists, scholars, and intellectuals. The beret was an emblem of the free-thinking, creative spirit that defined the era, and it was frequently worn by painters, poets, and philosophers as a sign of their intellectual and artistic pursuits. The beret's simplicity and versatility made it ideal for everyday wear, and its association with the creative class contributed to its widespread popularity. It also found its way into the wardrobes of soldiers and commoners, showcasing how Renaissance fashion transcended social boundaries and allowed for more personal expression. The Renaissance was also known for its elaborate and extravagant styles, particularly in the realm of headwear. The wide-brimmed hat, often decorated with feathers, ribbons, and elaborate trims, became a staple of fashion for both men and women. These hats were not merely functional, they were statements of status and sophistication. The feathered, wide-brimmed hats were particularly favoured by the nobility, with the feather colour and size often used as a means of displaying wealth and high rank. The more ornate and intricate the decoration, the higher the social standing of the wearer, as fashion became a key element in demonstrating one's place in the social hierarchy. In addition to the widespread use of these hats, the Renaissance period also saw the rise of a new class of craftsmen, the milliners. Milliners were skilled artisans who specialised in the creation of hats, and they were often highly regarded for their craftsmanship. They catered to both men and women, creating elaborate headpieces for the wealthy and offering more practical options for the middle class. The work of a milliner was meticulous and creative, as these artisans employed a variety of materials such as velvet, silk, feathers and lace to design hats that complemented the fashions of the time. Milliners were not only experts in the art of hat making, but also in fashion, often playing a crucial role in shaping the overall appearance and style of an individual's outfit. The milliner's craft during the Renaissance reflected the growing sophistication of fashion itself. As the middle class expanded, the desire for stylish clothing, including hats, became a marker of social identity. Unlike the rigid class distinctions of the medieval period, the Renaissance offered more fluidity in terms of fashion choices, with people of varying social classes able to access the latest trends. This period marked a growing interest in personal style, and hats became a key element of this self-expression. Milliners also played a role in tailoring hats to suit the specific needs and preferences of their clients, offering personalised designs that aligned with the latest fashion movements. This era also saw the introduction of the coif, a small fitted cap worn by both men and women. Often worn underneath larger hats or as a standalone piece, the coif became a fashionable addition to Renaissance attire. The coif was made from various fabrics, including linen and silk, and could be elaborately decorated with lace, embroidery and ribbons. For women, it was often worn as part of a more modest or refined look, while men used it as a practical accessory to keep their hair in place. With the flourishing of the Renaissance and the increasing emphasis on art, culture and individual expression, hats evolved beyond their functional role to become integral to the fashion world. The changing designs, from simple berets to grand feathered hats, symbolised the era's emphasis on creativity and personal style. The influence of milliners, who elevated hats to an art form, reflected the broader cultural shift towards craftsmanship and luxury. The Renaissance period therefore marked a critical point in the history of hats, as they not only provided protection and practicality, but also became a key element of personal expression, status, and the growing fashion culture that would continue to evolve in the centuries to come. As Europe entered the age of exploration, the world of fashion, particularly headwear, began to reflect the broader global dynamics of trade, cultural exchange, and exploration. The voyages of sailors, traders, and explorers to distant lands brought back a wealth of exotic materials, designs, and ideas that would influence the trends in headgear and fashion. This period saw the introduction of new materials such as silks, feathers, and fine furs, which would transform the way hats were constructed and adorned. The resulting fusion of European craftsmanship with influences from the Far East, Africa, and the Americas led to the creation of unique and stylish headpieces that were both symbolic of the time's adventurous spirit and practical in their design. One of the most iconic hats of the 17th and 18th centuries was the tricorn hat, recognised for its distinctive three-cornered shape. The tricorn was popularised among the European aristocracy and military officers, and it became a symbol of the elegance and fashion of the period. Worn by men of high rank, it was often made from fine materials such as wool, felt, or beaver fur, and was decorated with ribbons, lace, or feathers. Its unique design, with the brim turned up at 3 points, created a dramatic and stylish silhouette that became synonymous with the elite classes of both Europe and the American colonies. The tricorn was not just a functional piece of headwear, but also a reflection of the growing social status and power of the military and the aristocracy during this period. In the American colonies, hats like the wide-brimmed Puritan cap and the tri-cornered hat also gained prominence and became emblematic of the time. The Puritan cap, simple and modest in design, was a reflection of the religious values and austere lifestyle of the early colonists. It was worn by both men and women as a practical and conservative accessory. Meanwhile, the tri-cornered hat, which mirrored the European style but with local variations, became a symbol of revolutionary sentiment and independence, especially as the American colonies fought for their freedom from British rule. The tri-cornered hat was often associated with figures like George Washington and other military leaders during the American Revolution, and it became an enduring symbol of patriotism and colonial identity. A significant factor in shaping the economy of both Europe and North America during this period was the booming beaver fur trade, which played a pivotal role in the development of the hat industry. Beaver pelts, prized for their soft and durable fur, were highly sought after for the production of high-quality felt hats. The demand for these hats fueled an international trade network that spanned from the forests of North America to the workshops of European hat makers. The fur trade became a critical component of the economy in both the colonies and Europe, with beaver pelts becoming one of the most valuable commodities in the New World. The beaver fur trade was instrumental not only in the development of the hat industry, but also in shaping the economic and political landscape of both continents. In North America, the trade became a cornerstone of colonial economies, particularly in regions like Canada, where French and British fur traders competed for control of the valuable beaver populations. The demand for beaver pelts also led to the establishment of trade networks with indigenous peoples, who trapped and traded the pelts in exchange for European goods. In Europe, the high demand for beaver fur resulted in the establishment of a thriving industry of hat making, with cities like London, Paris and Milan becoming centres of the felt hat trade. The production of felt hats was a skilled craft that required specialised knowledge and labour, and it became an essential industry in many European economies. As hats became more accessible due to the expanding trade networks and growing economies, they became an even more significant aspect of European and American identity. The global exchange of materials and ideas helped shape fashion trends and allowed for the democratization of headwear. The influence of the beaver fur trade and the age of exploration led to a cultural exchange that went beyond just material goods. It shaped the way people dressed, signifying their social status, profession, and national identity. The tricorn, the Puritan cap, and the rise of milliners and hat makers symbolized the vibrant intersection of culture, commerce, and fashion during a period of great transformation in the history of hats. The 19th century brought about dramatic changes in hat fashion, driven largely by the rapid advancements in industrialization, as well as the rise of the middle class. This period marked a significant shift in how hats were designed, produced, and worn, as well as the social roles they played. The introduction of new technologies and innovations in manufacturing not only revolutionized the production of hats, but also made them more accessible to a broader segment of the population, marking the beginning of a new era in fashion. Hats, once primarily the domain of the aristocracy and elite, became an essential accessory for individuals across all social classes, signaling wealth, status, and personality. One of the most iconic symbols of wealth and sophistication during the 19th century was the top hat. With its tall, cylindrical shape, the top hat became synonymous with the refined elegance of the urban gentleman. It was often associated with the burgeoning middle and upper classes who had acquired their fortunes through industrialization, trade, and entrepreneurship. The top hat was a staple of formal wear, particularly in urban centres across Europe and North America, and its height was seen as an indicator of social stature. A man wearing a top hat was instantly recognised as a figure of importance and success, and it became an integral part of the gentleman's wardrobe. The top hat was often paired with tailored suits, waistcoats, and elegant canes, creating a sharp, polished appearance that signified sophistication and modernity. Its presence in both daily life and formal events underscored its prominence as a symbol of upper-class status and respectability during the 19th century. As society evolved, so did women's hats, which became increasingly elaborate and extravagant throughout the 19th century. Women's headwear grew more decorative, reflecting not only their wealth, but also their sense of style and individuality. Hats were often adorned with elaborate ribbons, intricate flowers, lace, and even entire bird specimens, including peacock feathers, sparrows, and even taxidermied birds, which were prized for their exotic appearance. These extravagant designs were typically worn at social gatherings, formal events, and even on daily outings. Hats became a canvas for creativity, with milliners competing to create the most fashionable and eye-catching designs. At the same time, These hats also carried social connotations. The size, shape, and embellishment of a woman's hat could communicate a variety of messages, from modesty to opulence, and played a significant role in how women were perceived in society. Among the most notable types of women's headwear during this period was the bonnet, a close-fitting hat that was typically tied under the chin with ribbons. The bonnet was especially popular in the early part of the century, particularly in rural areas and for outdoor activities. It was often made of soft fabrics such as cotton or silk, and was decorated with bows, flowers, and lace. Bonnet styles evolved over time, with larger, more decorative versions becoming fashionable during the mid-19th century. Women would wear bonnets for a variety of occasions, including gardening, church services, and formal outings. The bonnet was considered a modest yet stylish accessory, and it became emblematic of the idealized femininity of the time. In urban centres, bonnets were often worn alongside dresses with full skirts, emphasizing the contrast between the close-fitting, modest headwear and the elaborate dresses that complemented them. At the same time that women's hats became more decorative and complex, industrialization had a profound impact on the production of headwear. The invention of the sewing machine, along with the expansion of textile mills and factories, revolutionized hat production, making it faster and more efficient. This allowed for the mass production of hats at a scale never seen before, resulting in lower prices and greater availability. Hats that were once considered luxury items, reserved for the wealthy elite, became increasingly affordable for the middle class. The growth of factories and the expansion of retail stores enabled hats to be distributed to a wider audience, making them accessible to more people than ever before. With the introduction of mass production techniques, hats were no longer limited to a select few. The diversity of materials and styles available allowed people from different walks of life to express their individuality and social standing through their choice of headwear. While the upper classes continued to wear elaborate and expensive hats made from fine materials like silk, velvet, and fur, the growing middle class could now afford to purchase hats made from more affordable fabrics such as wool, straw, and cotton. This shift in accessibility marked a significant departure from previous centuries, when hats were primarily worn by the elite, and it signalled the beginning of a more inclusive, democratic approach to fashion. The evolution of hat fashion during the 19th century reflected the profound social changes of the time. As the middle class grew in influence and wealth, hats became a way to communicate not only one's social status but also one's personal identity. The Industrial Revolution, with its innovations in manufacturing, played a crucial role in making hats more affordable and available, democratizing fashion in a way that had not been possible before. For both men and women, hats became essential to their wardrobes, serving as symbols of sophistication, status, and style, while also reflecting the cultural and technological advancements of the era. By the end of the 19th century, hats had become a universal accessory that transcended class boundaries, establishing their place as an integral element of daily life and fashion for people from all walks of life. The early 20th century witnessed a dramatic shift in hat fashion, driven by the rapidly changing social and cultural dynamics of the time. This period, marked by significant political, economic, and technological advancements, saw hats evolve to reflect the new roles, identities, and freedoms that people were embracing. For women, the early 1900s brought about a dramatic shift in how they dressed and presented themselves, with hats becoming an essential part of their evolving fashion. The cloche hat, a close-fitting, bell-shaped style, became an iconic symbol of the 1920s, particularly during the flapper era. This hat epitomized the newfound freedom and independence that women were experiencing during this time, as they challenged traditional gender norms and embraced more liberated lifestyles. The cloche's sleek, modern design and its ability to frame the face emphasized the rebellious, confident attitude of the era's women, who were rejecting the restrictive corsets of the past in favor of shorter haircuts, more practical clothing, and a new sense of autonomy. Worn with bobbed hair, the cloche hat became a defining accessory of the Jazz Age, a period that celebrated not only the arts and music, but also a break from social conventions. Men's hats too evolved with the times, becoming increasingly versatile and worn by men from all walks of life. The fedora, with its soft brim and indented crown, became a staple of both formal and casual wear. Popularized by men of the middle and upper classes, it was often associated with businessmen and intellectuals who embraced its sophisticated yet approachable look. The fedora represented a sense of refinement and practicality, fitting seamlessly into the daily lives of men working in professional environments or even engaging in leisure activities like attending the theatre. It was worn with everything from suits to more casual outfits, making it an indispensable accessory for the modern man. Meanwhile, the bowler hat, which had been introduced much earlier in 1849 by London hatmakers Thomas and William Bowler for Edward Coke, a British soldier and politician, reached new heights of popularity during the early 20th century. Initially designed as a practical, sturdy hat to protect the heads of gamekeepers from low-hanging branches, the bowler quickly gained widespread appeal due to its distinctive shape and functionality. By the turn of the century, it had become synonymous with British working-class men, who wore it as a symbol of both resilience and respectability. The hat's hard felt construction and rounded crown made it ideal for the working environment, providing both durability and style. It wasn't long before the bowler transitioned from practical workwear to a fashionable accessory, embraced by people across different social strata. Its appeal spread beyond the working class to the emerging middle class, where it was often seen as a symbol of upward mobility and success. The bowler's popularity extended beyond Britain's shores, becoming a global symbol of British sophistication. By the early 20th century, it was adopted by men and women across Europe and the United States, becoming a defining accessory of the day. The bowler's reputation as a symbol of British class and propriety was further cemented when it became associated with iconic figures in popular culture, from silent film stars like Charlie Chaplin to the more intellectual or rebellious characters in the arts and literature. The bowler was versatile enough to be worn with formal wear, everyday business attire, or even casual outfits, making it an enduring symbol of style and practicality. Hats in the early 20th century were not merely about protection from the elements, they were crucial symbols of identity, class, and personality. The design and material of one's hat spoke volumes about their social standing, profession, and even their personal beliefs. For women, the cloche hat embodied the spirit of the 1920s, reflecting the era's social revolution and women's growing independence. For men, hats like the fedora and bowler represented refinement, practicality, and a sense of belonging to a particular class or profession. This era marked a period when hats were not only functional, but also deeply symbolic of the changing social fabric of the time, capturing the shift from old world traditions to modernity and individualism. As the century progressed, hat fashion would continue to evolve, responding to new cultural shifts, political movements, and technological innovations. Yet, the early 20th century remains a defining period in the history of headwear, as hats became a powerful expression of personal identity, societal change, and the complexities of modern life. Whether worn by flappers, businessmen, or working-class heroes, hats during this time encapsulated the spirit of an age in flux, marking the transition from the 19th century ideals of formality and restraint to the more liberated, dynamic, and expressive styles of the 20th century. The two world wars, which spanned the early and mid-20th century, had a profound impact on global fashion trends, particularly when it came to headwear. Military-style caps and helmets, originally designed for functionality and protection, began to influence civilian fashion in significant ways. The beret, for instance, became strongly associated with resistance movements, particularly during World War II, as various groups, from French resistance fighters to military personnel, adopted this simple yet distinctive headpiece. Its soft, rounded design, usually worn with a casual, nonchalant attitude, symbolized solidarity, rebellion, and defiance in the face of oppression. The beret also found a place in the world of art, as artists, writers, and intellectuals in Europe and beyond adopted the style as a symbol of creativity and individualism. In the post-war years, the beret continued to maintain its association with artistic and intellectual communities, solidifying its place in the cultural landscape as a timeless symbol of nonconformity and thought leadership. The 1940s and 1950s also saw the continuation of military-inspired fashion trends, as elements from soldiers' uniforms were incorporated into everyday wear. The iconic World War I and II helmets, designed primarily for protection, started to influence the design of civilian hats and headgear. Helmets with sleek, streamlined designs began to appear in fashion, embodying a modern, utilitarian aesthetic that reflected the rapid technological and industrial advancements of the time. For both men and women, military-style caps, such as the officer's cap, became fashionable, while the influence of military tailoring, with its sharp lines and structured forms, extended to more formal headwear as well. However, in the mid-20th century, hats began to experience a decline in popularity. The post-war era brought about a shift in fashion, as casual, more relaxed styles took hold in the wake of a changing society. The rise of youth culture, which emphasized individuality and rebellion against traditional norms, played a significant role in the move away from more formal attire, including hats. During this time, Hollywood stars such as James Dean and Marilyn Monroe became style icons, shaping the fashion preferences of an entire generation. James Dean, with his rugged and rebellious image, often wore simple, practical attire, which included hats like the fedora, but it was his casual, effortless style that influenced youth across the globe. Marilyn Monroe, on the other hand, embodied glamour and sophistication, but also embraced a more natural, less rigid approach to fashion. The combination of these Hollywood icons, coupled with the growing trend of casual dressing, made traditional headwear seem more and more out of place in everyday life. As the 1960s and 1970s rolled in, hats saw an even further decline in mainstream fashion. The youth-driven counterculture, including movements like the hippie movement, pushed for self-expression and freedom, often choosing to reject mainstream fashion entirely. During this period, the fashion world saw the emergence of new, unconventional hat styles that reflected the changing times. The wide-brimmed floppy hat, for example, became a popular choice among women, particularly during the 1960s, embodying the free-spirited bohemian aesthetic that was central to the hippie movement. This style was often associated with peace, love, and the rejection of traditional norms, as it was worn by women in protests, music festivals, and other cultural events. It became synonymous with the ideal of living freely and naturally, a sharp contrast to the more rigid styles of previous decades. At the same time, knitted beanies, originally associated with workers and labourers, made their way into mainstream fashion, becoming a popular choice among both men and women. Beanies, often worn slouchy and casual, symbolised comfort and ease, with their roots in street fashion and sports culture. This simple headgear was emblematic of the 1960s and 1970s desire to break free from the formalities of the past and embrace a more laid-back and accessible style. The beanie became a key accessory for both working-class youth and counterculture figures, further signifying a shift away from the more structured, formal hats of earlier decades. By the end of the 20th century, hats had ceased to be an everyday accessory for most people, as casual wear took centre stage in global fashion. The rise of sports culture and the commercial success of athletic brands also contributed to the downfall of traditional hat styles, with baseball caps becoming a ubiquitous accessory worn by people of all ages and backgrounds. Originally designed as functional headwear for athletes, baseball caps quickly became a symbol of casual coolness, worn by everyone from teenagers to adults, athletes to musicians and beyond. The flat-brimmed design and logo-centric appeal of baseball caps resonated with the era's obsession with brand identity and personal expression, making them the go-to choice for casual wear. At the same time, baseball caps and other types of sporty headgear were embraced by hip-hop culture, which further cemented their place in popular fashion. Despite the decline in everyday wear, hats did not completely disappear from the cultural landscape. They remained an essential part of special occasions, from weddings and galas to religious ceremonies and cultural festivals. Hats were still worn to signify status, formality and tradition, often with elaborate designs for significant events. In these contexts, hats continued to hold an air of elegance, providing a way for individuals to distinguish themselves at social gatherings and public occasions. Whether worn by the bride at a wedding or by guests at horse races, hats continued to be a symbol of occasion and importance, even as their presence in daily life diminished. Thus, the evolution of hats throughout the 20th century mirrored broader shifts in society, culture, and fashion. From the military influence of the world wars to the rebellion of youth culture and the rise of casual fashion, hats went from being a vital part of everyday attire to an accessory worn only in specific, often ceremonial contexts. Even though hats may no longer be considered a mandatory part of everyday fashion, they continue to evoke nostalgia, culture, and identity, maintaining their significance in certain social and cultural settings. Today, hats remain a versatile and expressive accessory, with styles ranging from the practical to the avant-garde, continuing to play a significant role in shaping personal style and cultural identity. The baseball cap, for example, has evolved into a global phenomenon, worn by people of all ages and backgrounds. Its simple yet functional design, initially intended to shield athletes from the sun, has made it a universal symbol of casual coolness. Whether worn by a teenager as part of their streetwear look, by sports fans showing team loyalty, or by fashion-conscious individuals looking to add a touch of sporty flair to their outfits, the baseball cap's accessibility and adaptability have cemented its place in modern fashion. On the other end of the spectrum, high fashion designers continue to push the boundaries of hat design, creating bold and innovative pieces that make a statement on the runway. These avant-garde designs often take unconventional forms, with hats that defy traditional shapes and materials, challenging perceptions of what headwear can be. Designers like Philip Treacy and Stephen Jones have become known for their couture hat creations, crafting extraordinary pieces that blur the lines between fashion, art, and sculpture. These hats are often worn by celebrities and royalty, adding an element of drama and elegance to red carpet events and major cultural occasions. At the same time, traditional hats like the sombrero, the turban, and the kufi continue to play an important role in cultural, religious, and societal practices around the world. These hats are far more than mere accessories. They carry deep meaning, often symbolizing identity, faith, and heritage. The sombrero, a wide-brimmed hat originating in Mexico, is a fascinating example of culturally significant headwear. Traditionally made from materials such as straw or felt, the sombrero was designed to provide shade from the intense sun, making it an essential accessory for farmers and laborers working in the Mexican countryside. Over time, it became intertwined with Mexican culture and identity, symbolizing the country's vibrant history and spirit. The sombrero's wide brim and ornate designs, which often feature intricate patterns and colorful embroidery, give it a distinct and celebratory aesthetic. Today, the sombrero is embraced not only in Mexico but around the world, appearing at festivals, cultural celebrations, and even in popular media as a representation of Mexican pride. It is often seen in contexts that highlight the joyful, colorful aspects of Mexican heritage, maintaining its cultural significance while also embracing its role as a global symbol of fun and festivity. The turban, a head wrap traditionally worn in many parts of Asia, Africa, and the Middle East, also holds deep religious, cultural, and social significance. In Sikhism, for example, the turban is a symbol of faith, honor, and equality. Sikh men and women, regardless of social or economic status, wear the turban as an expression of their commitment to their religious beliefs and their dedication to living a life of integrity and service. Beyond its religious significance, the turban has a practical purpose, providing protection from the sun and dust, as well as keeping the wearer's hair neatly contained. Similarly, in many African cultures, the turban is worn as a symbol of pride, dignity, and respect, with vibrant colours and intricate wraps signifying the wearer's status, region, or tribal affiliation. The turban is often seen at special occasions and ceremonies, including weddings and religious events, where its elaborate designs and rich cultural significance are proudly displayed. In these cultures, the turban serves as a powerful emblem of identity, heritage, and unity. The kufi, a small rounded cap worn by men in many Muslim-majority countries, is yet another example of culturally significant headwear. The kufi is most commonly worn during religious observances, such as prayers or during the observance of the holy month of Ramadan. It serves as a symbol of modesty and piety, reflecting the wearer's connection to their faith and their community. Its simple design, often made from woven fabric, knit materials, or even velvet, belies its profound meaning. The kufi is typically worn by Muslim men during prayer or while attending mosque services, serving as an outward manifestation of humility and respect for their religion. In many Muslim communities, the kufi is also worn during everyday activities, particularly during festive occasions or religious holidays, where it serves as a reminder of one's identity and devotion. In the realm of sports, hats have continued to play a significant role. The baseball cap, originally designed as athletic wear for players to shield their eyes from the sun, has transcended its origins to become a global fashion staple. In addition to the baseball field, the cap has been embraced by musicians, fashion icons, and the general public, making it an iconic element of streetwear. Over time, its design has evolved, with numerous variations from snapbacks and fitted caps to trucker hats and adjustable styles, allowing it to maintain its relevance across generations. The flexibility, practicality, and ability to showcase team logos, brand names, and even personal statements have all contributed to its enduring popularity. The history of hats is also marked by moments of innovation and creativity, particularly in the mid-20th century. In the 1960s, for example, the pillbox hat gained widespread popularity, especially after being worn by Jacqueline Kennedy, First Lady of the United States. The simple, cylindrical design of the pillbox hat became synonymous with elegance and sophistication, embodying the refined, modern sensibilities of the era. Women wore pillbox hats as a statement of class and style, and the accessory became a key feature in formal attire for many years. Its clean, geometric shape symbolized the post-war shift toward more streamlined, minimalist designs, a contrast to the elaborate styles of the earlier 20th century. Similarly, the bucket hat, originally designed for fishermen and outdoor enthusiasts, experienced a resurgence in the 1990s, thanks in part to its adoption by hip-hop culture and streetwear fashion. Its unstructured downturned brim and casual style made it a favourite among those seeking a more relaxed, laid-back look. In recent years, the bucket hat has undergone a revival, with contemporary fashion brands embracing it as a statement accessory for the younger generation. Its practicality, ability to provide sun protection, and nostalgic appeal have all contributed to its resurgence in popular culture. Thus, hats today continue to evolve, adapting to shifting cultural trends, technological advancements, and individual preferences. Whether worn as a statement of personal style, a symbol of cultural identity, or a practical solution to environmental needs, hats remain a powerful tool for self-expression and a reflection of the times. From the timeless tradition of the sombrero, the turban, and the kufi, to the ever-changing world of high fashion and global streetwear, hats have demonstrated their enduring relevance, maintaining a significant role in human history and culture. As we reflect on the history of hats, it's clear that they are far more than just functional accessories. They have served as powerful symbols of identity, culture, and creativity, and their significance transcends their practicality. From the elaborate headdresses of ancient civilizations to the sleek and innovative designs of modern fashion, hats have been a reflection of the times and the people who wear them. Each hat carries with it a history, a story of the people who created it, the social structures it represented, and the way in which it shaped, or was shaped by the cultural and historical context of its time. In ancient societies, for example, hats were often markers of social status, power, or religious significance. In Egypt, the pharaohs wore towering crowns, while in Rome, emperors and senators donned specific types of headgear to signal their rank. As societies evolved, so did the roles of hats. In medieval Europe, for instance, hats served as indicators of profession, social class, or allegiance. This connection between hats and status persisted through the centuries, with elaborate hats signifying wealth, nobility, and power, and simpler headwear representing modesty and the common folk. Hats became intertwined with the concept of hierarchy, a reflection of how societies valued and categorized people based on their roles, occupations, and relationships. Even as hats transitioned from symbols of authority to accessories of personal expression, they remained linked to cultural and political movements. In the 18th century, the tricorn hat symbolized the Age of Enlightenment and revolutionary ideals in Europe and America. During the Civil Rights Movement, hats took on new meaning as symbols of pride and unity, with the afro and other head coverings becoming part of a larger cultural renaissance that emphasized identity and empowerment. In each of these moments, hats were not simply worn as fashion accessories, they were symbols of larger societal shifts, movements, and expressions of personal and collective identity. Moreover, hats have been essential tools for creativity and craftsmanship. Over the centuries, milliners and hat makers have developed sophisticated techniques for shaping and adorning headwear, experimenting with materials, colours, and forms. Hats have provided a canvas for artistic expression, from the elaborate feathered designs of the 18th century to the futuristic sculptural creations seen on modern runways. In many ways, the development of hat-making techniques parallels advancements in other forms of art and craftsmanship, reflecting humanity's drive to innovate and to communicate ideas through visual aesthetics. Through every era, hats have allowed individuals to communicate their sense of self, their affiliations, and their place within society. Whether adorned with feathers, ribbons, jewels, or patterns, The hats of different periods and cultures have enabled wearers to visually convey their identity. The diverse forms and styles of hats, from the modest simplicity of a kufi to the opulent grandeur of a Victorian bonnet, offer a fascinating glimpse into the values and priorities of the people who wore them. Hats have been tools for defining and redefining social boundaries, making them much more than mere fashion items. They are a living testament to our evolving cultures and social structures. In the end, the story of hats is a testament to the enduring power of human ingenuity, creativity, and imagination. Whether worn for protection, ceremony, or self-expression, hats have a unique ability to tell stories, to evoke memories, and to connect us to our past. Each hat serves as a link to the rich tapestry of human history, offering insights into the people and cultures that produced them. As we continue to wear and design new hats, we are carrying forward this legacy of creativity and cultural exchange, ensuring that the symbolism and significance of hats remain vibrant and ever-evolving. Looking forward, it is exciting to imagine how hats will continue to evolve and inspire in the future. As fashion trends shift, as technology advances, and as new global influences shape our cultures, hats will remain an integral part of our shared cultural heritage. Will they continue to reflect the cultural diversity and technological innovation of our times, or will they take on new forms and meanings we cannot yet predict? The possibilities are endless, and each new chapter in the history of hats will provide new stories and new connections between people, cultures, and time periods. So the next time you put on a hat, whether it's a simple cap, an elegant fascinator, or a wide-brimmed sun hat, take a moment to appreciate the rich history, artistry, and cultural significance behind this simple yet powerful accessory. A hat is never just a piece of clothing. It is a living, breathing artifact, a conversation with the past, and a story waiting to be told. Through the timeless allure of hats, we are reminded of our shared humanity and our ability to use clothing to express ourselves, to create connections, and to communicate our place in the world. In this sense, the hat transcends fashion. It becomes a symbol of how we understand and navigate the world, both individually and as a collective society. Oh, you're still here? That's surprising. If you somehow made it to the end without dozing off, don't worry, there's plenty more where that came from. So hit subscribe and let Bore Me to Bed do its job, one video at a time. Good night.